everyone, and welcome back to the Listen Up podcast. And here's my guest for the day.
Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Stacey Chobany. I'm an audiologist in San Diego, and I'm excited to talk with Vivian and talk with all of you all today.
Okay, so I have a couple questions, but I first want to start off with sort of how you got into audiology in the first place. So, what inspired you, and what did your path look like to get there?
So my path was a little unique because I actually didn't know anyone who had hearing loss. I didn't know anything about audiology or hearing aids or cochlear implants before I went to college. I was first really interested in linguistics and languages and communication. And then I took a class in speech and hearing sciences, and I saw that there was a way to sort of incorporate my passion for communication and language and then helping other people be able to communicate better. And so then I took some more classes in college, fell in love with acoustics and auditory science, and then I went to grad school for audiology. And that was just hearing and audiology all day, every day. Did some clinical rotations there, and then ended up where I am now.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because there's a lot of different paths. Like, I think some people like are kind of set on audiology from like a young age or they like learn about it then. But then there's also like different paths where you kind of fall in love with it later on, which I think is really cool. Um, but yeah, I kind of wanted to know, like now that you are an audiologist, what does your typical day look like and sort of when patients come in for checkups, what those consist of?
Yeah, every day is pretty different in my practice, which is something that I love. Audiologists can work in different settings. We can work in schools or hospitals or private practices. I work in a ear, nose, and throat clinic, an ENT clinic. So I see a lot of patients with maybe more complex or like medical ear related issues, like ear infections, or they need surgery for certain things. So it's fast paced in that I do a lot of diagnostic testing for the ENT physicians. Then I also have a side of it that's more of like a private practice. So I take care of hearing aids and cochlear implants for patients that aren't necessarily seeing the ENTs. So every day is a combination of doing basically hearing tests for the ENTs, but then also doing consultations, fittings, follow-ups for the hearing aid patients, and then also candidacy evaluations and programming appointments for cochlear implants.
Nice. Yeah, because yeah, I remember getting my first sort of programming, and that was a really interesting experience because you kind of have to like adjust to what your new map looks like. Like I remember the first couple of days after things sort of sounded a little bit staticky or like I wasn't used to like the different volumes and such. But it's a really cool experience to sort of like figure out what works best for me and like my hearing in different environments. So,
I think it's awesome. I mean, you have a behind the scenes experience
yeah.
going into audiology offices. I'm sure you've been to so many appointments throughout your life.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, yeah, I'm sure a lot of people don't really understand the differences between how things sound through a cochlear implant versus through like natural hearing or a
Mhm.
hearing aid. Yeah.
Yeah. Now that you sort of talked about what your day can look like, I was wondering what your favorite parts are of being an audiologist and interacting with different patients.
Yeah. Oh, there's so many things I like about this job. I definitely feel lucky to be in this field. But I think the most rewarding is just when you are able to help someone hear again who has been struggling with their hearing for some time. I mean, there's so many stories of like people coming in feeling really isolated or they're frustrated or their family's frustrated, and then they finally get the help that they need and they're able to participate again their day-to-day life. There's one patient in particular that sticks with me. He is in his 90s. He was like 92 when I first met him. very, very severe hearing loss, like really couldn't communicate at all. And his vision was really bad too. So you couldn't
Yeah.
even write to him or there, he was just really cut off, but he was so, still like so active and like
Mhm.
just it had so much life in him, but he was just
Yeah.
very disconnected from everyone. And it took about a year of counseling and educating, and finally he decided his family all agreed to get a cochlear implant for him.
Oh,
And it's just night and day now. I mean, he's just basically come back to life. He's like just he's doing incredible with his implant, and you can just it's just been so beautiful to see his journey from being so cut off from everything, and then he's able to just
yeah.
participate in his life. So I think there's a lot of, I mean, hearing is just such an important part of life,
Mhm.
especially if you grew up hearing, and so being able to help people reconnect with that is super important.
Yeah. I think for me, that's what I always found interesting because, especially since I've had hearing loss since, like, genetically since I was born, like me getting my cochlear implants when I was only 7 and 8, and then hearing all these stories of sort of people in their 80s and like everything where they only just now got one. It was just crazy to me that like different people live completely different periods of their life, like with very little hearing. And I don't know, I think it's really cool how everyone sort of connects with this like new experience of like being able to hear again and then having all of these opportunities with it. It's like it's really heartfelt and I think it's great.
Yeah, yeah. There's so many types of people that can benefit from an implant. So yeah.
Yeah. And then I wanted to ask sort of on like the flip side, what sometimes are the challenges of being an audiologist or what you think sort of you find hard in your job.
Yeah. So I love being able to help people, but there's a lot of barriers to getting people with hearing loss the help that they need. One of
Mhm.
the barriers is just the stigma behind hearing loss. And I work primarily with adults or with older children, but
Mhm.
especially with older adults, the stigma around, I mean, just hearing aids being a sign that you're getting old. I mean,
Yeah.
we both know people can have hearing loss at all ages, but there's still that stigma like, oh, if I get hearing aids, I'm admitting that I'm getting old. People try and muscle through their hearing loss and just, no, I can get by. I can get by. I don't need hearing aids yet. So, having that conversation with patients about the importance of treating their hearing loss, but then also it's a challenge to sometimes just counsel them and in an ideal world people just do what I tell them to do, right? You would benefit from hearing aids, here, take these hearing aids. But when there's that stigma, it's, we have to kind of meet the patient where they're at,
Mhm.
and just hear them out and kind of help guide them to that. But ultimately, it's their decision if they're ready to wear hearing aids. And then just one more huge barrier is the cost too.
Yeah.
Cochlear implants go through insurance for pretty much everyone, as a medical device, but hearing aids almost never go through insurance,
Yeah.
and they can be pretty expensive out of pocket. I mean, you can get things online, you can get hearing aids at Costco, like there's different options, but for most people, it's the price is still a barrier too. So I think that that's a challenge in my job is I want to just give people the solutions. They're coming to me with a concern with their hearing loss. I want to correct it, but
Mhm.
there's this price tag that gets in the way, unfortunately. And I wish that that wasn't the case.
Yeah, I think that's like a big struggle that I've also thought about with like different communities. Like every like many people across the world kind of face these challenges with hearing loss, whether they've had it since they were younger or they like acquire this hearing loss when they're older. There's always sort of like I personally think that so many of these things should be covered by insurance and such, but there's also this big sort of challenge and obstacle of a lot of people, like particularly in like low income communities that can't afford these sort of medical solutions. So I think there's definitely um, things to be done there. But yeah, it's interesting to consider. Just
Yeah,
me.
definitely. And there's no easy solution. I mean, some
Mhm.
insurances do cover hearing aids. Medicaid covers hearing aids, Medi-Cal. But even with that, there's like longer wait times for appointments. The quality of the hearing aids is
Mhm.
the same as what you would get from, the top of the line hearing aids. There's still a big range in the
Mhm.
quality of the hearing aids you get, the quality of the service you get with it. Yeah, and that's something else people don't always understand with hearing aids. It's not that you're just buying the hearing aid and going home. Like there's a
Yeah.
lot of fitting follow-up counseling that needs to be a part of it in order to be successful with it. So hopefully that can be something that is compensated by insurances one day.
Yeah. There's like a lot of different steps to kind of people's hearing journeys. Like, I think, like you said, a lot of people think it's sort of just like a one and done situation where you get your hearing appliance and then all of a sudden you can just hear again and it's okay. But there's a lot of steps. Like, for me, I get my cochlear implants activated and then I have to go through like programming sessions with like the audiologist. But then I also had to do like years and years of speech therapy because when I was younger, I wasn't able to really hear kind of the different sounds. So it took a while for me to, I guess, get to a level where I was comfortable speaking. But then also, there's sort of the whole like social aspect where you have to learn sort of how to navigate different environments, especially with like lots of background noise and everything. That's a big struggle. So I think it's like really important to highlight how individual everyone's journey is and like how many steps there are. So,
Yeah, I completely agree with you. Everyone's journey is really individual, but it's almost never straightforward. Like the
yeah.
steps, oh my gosh, especially with a cochlear implant, right? The before you even get it, the during, the after. I think I mean, I tested you. I saw your scores. Like you do incredible in quiet and background noise. Like I could tell all that hard work paid off, but it definitely took a team and it took time to
Yeah.
are right.
So I was wondering, patients come in and they're kind of searching for, they want like a hearing appliance. How do you figure out which would be the best fit? And like,
Yeah. Yeah. And that's a big part of why people go to audiologists, right? Is to help them figure that out. And it all starts with the hearing test. We have everyone's hearing loss is different. We want to measure the severity of it. And then there's also this aspect to hearing. It's not just about like how quiet of a sound you can hear. The typical hearing test, like you're listening to different beeps, basically press the button,
Mhm.
hear beeps. We're also having people repeat words at an elevated volume. And in theory, even if you have hearing loss, as long as words are loud enough, you should be able to hear them all. But that's not how hearing works. Hearing loss can get more and more progressive and severe, and meaning that even when things are loud enough, people have trouble understanding what the words are. So, in short, cochlear implants are for people for whom hearing aids no longer work. So, like when hearing loss first starts, hearing aids are great up from like a mild to moderate to severe degree of hearing loss. But at a certain point, for some individuals, um, most people know, but for some people, a hearing aid just doesn't work anymore. It's
Mhm.
not providing clear sound, it's too distorted. And so at that point, we talk about doing the cochlear implant. So when a patient comes in, my process for deciding hearing aid or cochlear implant, always start with the hearing test. Depending on the hearing loss, most of the time it's some form of hearing aid. But if the hearing loss is too severe for a hearing aid to work, then we talk about a cochlear implant.
Yeah. That's kind of that's sort of what my journey was like too, because I started when I was very young with hearing aids and it was all fine. And then when I was around 6, my hearing had progressed too much, so then I had to switch to cochlear implants. So yeah.
Okay, you started with hearing aids then.
Yeah, just for like a pretty short amount of time. And I liked them. And then I got implanted on one side and I still had a hearing aid on the other. So it was kind of like a mixed situation. And then I got both implants.
Gotcha. So you did one at a time for the implants, right?
Yeah, because I think we also just wanted to like play it safe, I guess, and see how it went with like one ear, especially since we were younger. And then it like turned out great and we progressed. It was the same with like my younger sister. We kind of just did um, like one of each and we tested it out. And yeah, it was interesting. I still feel like to this day, since I was implanted on my right side first, I kind of rely on it more. I don't
Yeah.
know if that's like a typical thing, but I guess it does make sense because like for around a year, that was kind of the side that I was like hearing more sound from. So,
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, because when you get also, yeah, when you get the implant, you typically lose whatever hearing you have left. So
mhm.
for a lot of people and adults too, the idea of doing both at once can be a little scary.
Yeah.
Most of the adults I work with just do the one side and then use the hearing aid on the other. But then at a certain point, after a while, they're like, "Oh, this is works so much better."
Yeah.
The implant for the other side.
Yeah. Just for kind of like a final question, as you were talking, I was wondering sort of, you talk about your like relationship to your patients and sort of helping them through their hearing journey. I sort of like, I wanted to know how do you feel that your sort of position and your role as an audiologist, um, how do you feel like you play this part in their hearing journey and like the effect that has on you as well.
Yeah, because I definitely form relationships with a lot
Mhm.
of my patients. It's not like I fit them and they go, right?
Yeah.
Like you were saying, like it takes a lot of appointments with a cochlear implant, lots of follow-ups over time. And I'm the only audiologist in my practice,
Mhm.
so everyone sees me,
Yeah.
which a lot of people like, right? Because it's a very like personal, vulnerable journey that
Yeah.
we go on, and so it's kind of reassuring to just like whatever you need, like that's your provider, that's your audiologist.
Mhm.
But I'm also like a very empathetic person, so I feel like that like I carry a lot of the like emotional journey
Yeah.
that my parents, my patients go through. Um, Parents don't need hearing aids yet, but I will be the first to set them up with that. Um, but yeah, I think, you know, as I've been at this practice for almost 3 years now, it's been
Mhm.
really cool to see some of these patients that I fit when I first started just keep coming back for maintenance and annuals and just starting to get to know them more and more. And they
Mhm.
get to know me, and it's like I have this whole big family dispersed across
Yeah.
San Diego. Um, yeah, and it's always nice, like those stories, like the older patient with the cochlear implants, like to see someone evolve from just having a lot of difficulty to now being able to participate in their life again is really
Yeah.
special.
I feel like the sort of emotional or personal connection is really important, especially because I think like the people's hearing journey can be sort of, I guess, a rough patch or so with like all the different like adapting to your new life socially, and then also kind of some people feel a sort of sense of like isolation. So I think having this strong connection to an audiologist or to someone that really cares about your hearing journey and how you're doing in that aspect, I think it's really important, and it really helped me a lot too, just personally.
And look where you are now, like exceptional scores on your testing. So I think it's awesome that you have this unique, like personal perspective of audiology. And yeah, and there's so much that people can still learn about cochlear implants. Um, and just like meeting more people who have them is such a big part of that.
Yeah. Okay, I wanted to thank you for sitting down with me and talking about this and taking the time out of your day. It was really helpful, and I love to hear sort of all your insights and your ideas. Thank you.
Talking with you. Yeah. All right. Well, if you have any other questions, feel free to reach out. It was really nice chatting with you.
I will. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.